glasses. Has she always had glasses? Oh. You're looking very studious. They're not real? It's a prop? Oh. My eye doctor says as time goes on.
Is that a cookie exchanger?
Better okay.
It
Could be
could
worse.
be anything from Sludders to Local Boys to downtown. I have no idea. I'm pretty sure he said downtown.
All right.
Okay,
We
okay.
will initiate the regular meeting of the Traverse City Light and Power Board for Tuesday, December 9th, 2025. Please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. Roll call, please, Jennifer.
Tobin.
Here.
Brennan.
Here.
Ness.
Here.
Taylor.
Here.
Bomer.
Here.
Davila. Heiberger.
All right. Welcome new board members quickly. I know we're going to have some chance for that later, but welcome to our new city commissioners and supporting this organization. Really appreciate that. One of the items in the agenda that we have is just an opportunity to recuse yourself. Anything in the agenda that would have a conflict or a dual fiduciary responsibility, and just giving you a little context for what I'm about to ask next, which is, would any board members like to recuse themselves from any elements of the agenda today? Okay, seeing none. We'll move on to consent.
The purpose of the consent calendar is to expedite business by grouping non-controversial items together to be dealt with by one board motion without discussion. Any member of the board, staff, or the public may ask that any item on the consent calendar be removed therefrom and placed elsewhere on the agenda for full discussion. Such requests will be automatically respected. If an item is not removed from the consent calendar, the action noted in parentheses on the agenda is approved by a single board action adopting the consent calendar.
Thank you. Would any members of the board like to pull anything from consent tonight? All right. Would any member of the public like to pull anything from consent? All right. We'll bring it back to the board for a vote. All those in favor, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right. The consent passes. Thank you. No unfinished business. We'll move into new business item A, which is considering the approval of an energy waste reduction surcharge effective early next year.
So we, sorry. Sorry about that. As we like to start out, we always like to look at our mission and vision just to make sure we're in alignment when presenting to you. This subject talks or speaks to our strategic priorities: financial and operation excellence, environmental sustainability, and customer experience. Just a quick recap, this was presented at the last board meeting. This is a compliance requirement through Public Act 295 of 2008. And the purpose is to allow the utility to recover the actual program costs, to incentivize ratepayers to save energy or electrify with the idea of transitioning to clean energy. This was kind of formally known as our rebate program, which you may be familiar with, and transitioning to our energy rewards program. Costs are allocated volumetric for residential electric customers, so they will receive a per kilowatt hour charge. And then all other rate classes will get a per meter charge. And funding must be reserved for low-income residential programs. So just want to review our recent rate adjustments. June 30th, 2023, we did have no base rate increase. We do have a variable component of our rates called the power service cost recovery. From 23 to 24, it was about 0.007, and then same from 24 to 25. Then from 25 to 26, we also didn't do a base rate increase because we forecasted an increase in that variable cost. I'm glad to report we're actually trending lower than that, but we have seen a slight increase in that power service cost recovery. So getting back to the chart, in January 2024, we approved the time of use rates to be effective with December's 2025 consumption, and that was designed to be revenue neutral for our customers. June 30th, 2024, we overall had a base rate increase of 5%. And as I mentioned earlier, June 30th, we didn't have a base rate increase. And then in September 2025, the state mandated us to charge $1.25 per meter for LIHEAP, which is the assistance program for our customers. And then if approved, January 1st, 2026, the EWR surcharge rate will be effective. Just to provide you like where our rates are based on the most recent data from EIA 2024 results, overall we're the 9th lowest out of the 57 reported utilities in the state of Michigan. For residential, we're 3rd lowest out of the 30. Unfortunately, not all utilities report in every component. Commercial, we're 5th lowest out of 30, and industrial, 6th lowest out of 22. So overall, we have pretty low rates compared to other utilities within the state of Michigan. We've provided this slide to you before, and it's an energy burden slide that Colin Heights found. And what it shows is what energy burden is, which is the utility cost divided by the average household income. And this is a government, federal government data, and they say a household is burned if it's 6% or greater. Currently, TCLP system is predominantly at 2%, that light green shade. So this is our energy optimization surcharge that was presented to you at the last board meeting. So residential will be about 0.0038 per kilowatt hour, so that'll be addition of $1.92 monthly average. And then the non-residential, it'll be based on the monthly kilowatt hour consumption. They'll get a per meter charge. Also, we have a self-directed surcharge. So within the law, customers with annual peak demand of at least 1 megawatt are allowed to be self-directed. We still get credit for that kilowatt hour savings, but they still have to be charged for the low income cost of the program. So with this surcharge, we'll provide $227,000 for the residential program costs and $664,000 for the commercial industrial program. This is just the tariff rate that will be included within our tariff book. Any questions?
Thank you.
I
Maura.
have a question. So you gave us kind of where we are in state at the beginning. Is this surcharge going to significantly change that, or did you look at that at all?
No, I didn't. I don't have like that granular idea, but I think most utilities will be adding the surcharge if they don't already have it.
Okay.
So, because we're required to save 1.5% of energy, and that's a significant cost to achieve that goal. So,
Other questions for staff on this proposal? Okay.
with that, if you can open up for a public hearing,
Okay.
appreciate it.
Just announce. All right. The purpose of the public hearing is to allow the public an opportunity to express and the opportunity for the board to consider the public support, opposition, or general comments regarding this matter. To preserve the written record, members of the public are asked to state whether they are in support or opposition to this matter, or whether they are expressing general comments. After such statement, the public is welcome to continue to elaborate on the matter. The public hearing is now open. Okay. Is there anyone who would like to comment during the public hearing? All right. And then do I officially close it? Okay, I'll now officially close the public hearing and then bring it back to the board for any discussion. Well, actually, a motion first, and then if appropriate, discussion. Anybody like to make the motion?
I can move that the Light and Power approve the surcharge authorized by Public Act 295 of 2008, referred to as the EWR surcharge, to be effective January 1st, 2026.
Thank you. Can I get a second?
Second?
Thank you both. Now I'll ask for any further discussion on the motion. All right. Any public comment on the motion? All right, we'll bring it back to the board for a vote. All those in favor, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, the motion passes. Thank you, Carla.
Thank you.
We will move into the Sustainable Innovation Campus Ad Hoc. And our Brian's going to ask for some direction and ultimately a group of volunteers.
Yes, thank you. So, let me get my bearings, make certain okay, great. So just circling back on our strategic foundation, the mission and the vision, everything you do is intended to ensure that we're moving forward in terms of how we're serving up to be that trusted community partner, driving innovative, affordable services for our customers. Jumping really, quite frankly, I'm going to jump to the punchline. In essence, the reason why we're talking today is predominantly because our current facilities aren't operationally functional. I'm going to go through an update that really kind of capstones a lot of the discussion that's happened over the past year, and maybe a lot of this would just be a refresher and a reminder for you. There's a lot of materials to read, but and I'm going to do my best not to be as repetitive as possible. But in essence, really the key piece here is that the Hastings footprint is not operationally sustainable. There are some safety concerns that we're noodling through and we're triaging, making certain that there's no imminent threat or danger. The design has pretty much exceeded its useful life, and there really is an opportunity to make an investment forward that's going to really seize the opportunity for over the next 50 years or so. And so let's talk about the opportunity. So I've talked with you about the problem, really why we're really talking about this topic. The opportunity that we have right now is because we have both not only a concern, but we also have a potential piece of property that we could use. We hadn't looked at it in the same fashion over the past few years, but over the past, I would say, year or so, and given some additional, basically with the research and the analysis with our third-party consultant, we do have an opportunity to look at how we can invest forward that still aligns with not only the operational needs, but also with what we want to do for the future strategically. I mentioned in terms of the facility limitations, and then what I'm hoping to talk about, which I'm probably most excited about, is really the clean energy innovation. So really, again, the focus of the discussion today is just really to recap, go through the findings, present what I think are the opportunities, give you an opportunity to really answer and follow up with any questions, because I have been sending a lot of information, and then talk with you about the next step forward. In that sense, I kind of also want to get a loose litmus test in terms of, am I going in the right direction before I keep moving forward? And then I am going to obviously make an ask or recommend that we set up a specific ad hoc for this. So let's talk a little bit more, just as a high level, with respect to the Hastings location. As I mentioned, there are current limitations that are affecting our operation, both in terms of people, efficiency, in terms of the space, but also energy usage. And we are running into constraints with respects to parking, the yard. There are a number of things that really, and it's aging, quite frankly. When we started looking at this assessment, and we engaged Hobbs & Black to do this for us as a third party, the idea is how do we represent and capture what we want to do from an environmental sustainable perspective and move forward. Ideally, if we're going to talk with our customers about electrification and energy efficiency, how can we lead by example? So that's really how this conversation started. Engage the third party, and it was with the Sustainable Ad Hoc Committee. Parallel to that, what was happening is we also had the Cedar Run ad hoc because we were in the process of potentially liquidating that property. They were on two parallel tracks, so to speak, but they weren't necessarily intersecting, predominantly because the journey with Cedar Run had really started prior to me arriving in '22, and we were just kind of catching up. And really where our need and meeting where our new strategic plan was happening is really at the beginning of '25. And so we were able not only to get some clarity in terms of what we needed at the Hastings footprint, we also had the opportunity to utilize our new safety administrator to have him do kind of like a quick look based on bringing in-house some safety considerations. And this conversation really gently turned to not only was this a conversation about environmental sustainability, but it was more so about operational effectiveness. And so it turned into that conversation. And so when the buyer decided to step away from the Cedar Run property, in essence, there was an advantage to us. These two considerations do not have anything to do with each other. The buyer exercised their right to step away from the Cedar Run property for their reason that they were automatically able to do, and it coincided with the same time we were wrapping up our feasibility study. So the clear piece is when one door, really the clear situation is you've got a door that closed, and I like to say a garage door open, quite frankly. And so that's why we're coming back to what can we do with that Cedar Run property. And I don't want to necessarily rehash what were the considerations, what we were going into, what we were dealing with Cedar Run. But what I do envision is our path forward. It really is an opportunity to take advantage of the large acreage. It has an opportunity to put renewables and energy storage on that site. And actually, prior to being able to put a facility on there, it was actually going to be economically not feasible to even do anything like that. And if I recall, I think one particular board member asked me, will there be an opportunity to put a renewable on that property at some point in the future? And what I'm telling you is that now we do have that opportunity. When I talk about and natural preservation, one of the key things that came up with the Cedar Run property was we had entities that were interested, nonprofits interested in doing something with the property, but they really just didn't want to own it. There was an environmental empowerment. I mean, there is an environmental empowerment on that property, and that's going to expire at some particular point. But being able to step up and be responsible for that is not something that someone wanted to do. We may have an opportunity to still maybe have an agreement where they can still utilize that property in that fashion, and we own it. We're in control over it. We know what we're doing. Class 5 costs, and when I talk about different classes of costs, it's just levels of certainty. So a class 5 might be where it's high level speculative. You get down to class 1, that is much more certain. So where we are right now, we're still conceptual. And so right now, based on our preliminary estimates, and maybe that's a better word to use for that, our preliminary estimates, this is an advantage for us because we already own the property. There is a need, and there's a lot that we want to do as an organization. And most specifically, while we were looking at updating on that Hastings footprint previously, it is going to require some operational disruption, meaning that we'd have to figure out how do you manage customers, how do you manage staff. There's a lot going on at the property. Being able to focus on Cedar Run does offer that advantage. I mentioned the renewables. It is, I would say, it's a clear slate, to be frank, for renewables, but it is an excellent platform for energy innovation. We keep talking about what's the next great project that we want to do. We want our customers to invest in these projects. Why not us? And so one, in addition to being able to modernize our offices, have fleet operations that can work feasibly, and when I talk about fleet operations, just touching on that just generally, it's the difference between backing large trucks up as opposed to pulling them through. So as you can imagine, you need space to do that. Right now, our trucks back in and out of a garage that basically gets kind of puzzled in. We have to get away from that. So space gives us an opportunity to be able to do that. We can have a microgrid, and I'll talk a little bit more about that at my next slide, and some purposeful built yard, and more specifically, long-term scalability. And scalability from the standpoint of what we really want on the property and what we have really been envisioning. getting into more of a microgrid. So one of the things that the team and I have been talking about, again, if we're asking our customers to do it, we should be doing it. So we want to be all electric. We want to integrate renewables. We want to take advantage of geothermal. And we obviously want to do energy storage. The only thing we're missing is a control system. And then we have a microgrid or a nanogrid, however you want to dice up the terminology. Why not do it? And so it is if we're going to make that investment, why not do the example that we think that we have really been promoting, and I'm really excited about it. Before I even get to this, when I say we're excited about it, being able to have a demonstration, that's been consistently the theme, quite frankly, since we updated our strategic plan in '23. This is that living demonstration of being able to do it. And it's a demonstration of doing it not necessarily because of the end result, but because of the planning and the considerations that go into that. Not only will we have experience procuring it, we will have experience working with contractors, partners, and being able to figure out how do we manage our operations in a way that we can provide a blueprint to our other customers in terms of where they're going in the direction with this. And it will also be a good opportunity with that space to being able to bring in others to learn. Maybe it's a community space, I don't know. Maybe it's an opportunity to hold a conference. I'd love to be able to host a conference in that particular space. But in essence, it is truly a living demonstration of what we've really been talking about over the past few years. And, you know, we're going to talk about the capital improvement plan pretty soon. And I'm going to tell you, quite frankly, this is probably the most innovative capital improvement strategy that we have since I have arrived. And the time is ripe for that. And we can talk a little bit about that. But the reason being is that TCOP has invested so much in its transmission and distribution structure. It is a resilient system, and we will continue to maintain a resilient system. So what next? This is next. Now, I mentioned we had 2 ad hoc committees really kind of going concurrently at the same time. A little bit of overlap, right? Key things that came out of these key updates was, okay, Brandy and staff, great idea, but I need to make certain you have financial discipline. What is the financial strategy? Ensuring that there's transparency. I understand there's an operational issue. How do we minimize disruption? And the sustainability alignment. Yeah, we started out with looking at this as a sustainable innovation, but it has now turned into an operational need more so than anything. And then having gate-based decisions, understanding that we're proceeding. So I wanted to capture that so you know that hopefully I've captured the feedback and the direction that I received over the past year, but to let you know those are the themes that we're moving forward with. So what happens with Hastings? I told you that there's a problem. Well, what are we doing in the meantime? So we have both what we've developed, both as a short-term and a long-term strategy. The short-term strategy is, I like to say, 1 to 3 years. It might be maybe 1 to 5, depending on how construction goes. But in essence, what we're doing is we are being very intentional on cost-benefit analysis and safety considerations. We are constrained, but we're looking at things much more closely to determine, is this worth a long-term investment? Is there something here that we're building that can move over to a different location or a different space? Key example is updating the data center. You know, that is something, the way we can do it, we can move that wherever we are. So it's not a lost investment. So we're having a lot of those conversations. We are constrained in terms of being able to bring staffing resources on. And so we're noodling through that, and we would just have to pivot and see how our projects go. But in essence, we're trying to be very intentional in terms of how we're moving forward. Long term, I mean, quite frankly, the long term can really be captured in I would say 4 different perspectives. From a community and a city perspective, it would be really great to put that back on the tax rolls. I think that's probably more of an opportunity for the city. It is potentially a redevelopment opportunity, whether it's commercial, industrial, or maybe even housing. It is something that there's not like it's a lot of space in the city to be able to do things like that. So that is an opportunity. And when it comes to the strategic impact, and I go back to when we were working on the Cedar Run transaction, we can drive the purchase. And I would see us not doing anything different with respect to what happens with that particular property. From a financial and a strategic perspective and operations, obviously the sale of that property will help offset the costs. It also helps with minimizing ratepayer burden. And then obviously, we can get new customers. So, obviously that's like a bonus, right? Wouldn't it be great to have customers from both electric as well as for fiber? And being able to obviously minimize any ongoing maintenance issues. Right now, that's what we're tackling with. We are spending money on things that I am questioning whether or not are sustainable. This moves away from that. And then, of course, I've talked quite at exhaust. I think I've talked about the last group of bullets very exhaustive already. So this is where, and I'm going to get to another slide, this is where I really want to make certain I'm moving in the right direction. What I'm looking at right now is what I would say a no to low spend approach between now and the end of the fiscal year. And what that's involving is ideally continuing to prep and plan. With the solar in particular, there is a 40% direct tax credit that we can take advantage of. However, we have to move fast to start getting RFPs out so that we can move forward with that. I want to make certain that you're in alignment with that. But we do need to move fast in order to take advantage of those benefits. Decision gate, I envision the next decision gate or the first decision gate is really in March. Assuming that I'm moving in the right direction, in March is where I plan on coming back, and we will talk a little bit more deeply in terms of the financial strategy. Hopefully we can have convened an ad hoc if you're in agreement with being able to have an ad hoc. But basically we would have more of what I would consider a true project authorization, and I'd like to do that in March. And then thereafter, after March and kind of moving into the fiscal year, I envision a number of things happening, which includes bringing on an owner's rep. An owner's rep is a valuable resource. It's a little different than a construction manager or an owner's engineer, but it is a key partner that I think will be very helpful from not only helping us with the finance strategy, the build, site, confirmation of the site location. It's just a very critical investment. I think it's definitely worth the money. And then when we get to the second decision gate, I think that's where we're really fine-tuning things. This talks a little bit about the work that I envision occurring in March, and I just kind of went through that. So that's the program brief, the site criteria, making certain that our requests for qualifications are all teed up, the finance strategy. I mentioned that key piece about the solar and storage RFP so that we can realize that 40% benefit there. And then in March, this is again where I think I'm just repeating here, but where I envision the decision will be in March. This is just another view of what I already went through with you, just so you can kind of look at it as a glance. As you can see, there's obviously more detail in these first couple months because where we're going from here and hopefully being able to include it in our capital investment plan is going to be really critical right now. And so this is where I think I'll just kind of pause and get your thoughts. Like, are we going in the right direction? What are you thinking?
Okay. Any thoughts to share with staff on the general direction that is being presented?
So some of the more, nitty-gritty of this was discussed more at length, I think, in the sustainability ad hoc. And I'm just wondering if any of the members of that committee would be willing to share their thoughts about the project. And
I will.
Great.
All right, so I pushed back kind of hard on having a new structure built off-site. I felt like it was important to really thoroughly look at that Hastings Street location in terms of what is truly sustainable, working with an existing set of buildings. And so we had some good conversation about that, and having actually toured that whole campus on Hastings Street not that many months ago, I do understand, and having reviewed Hobbs and Black's material after they've thoroughly analyzed all things relative to life and safety and just like the HVAC system, it became pretty clear to me that leaving that location is the best way forward. But I pushed, so I feel comfortable with the decision to look elsewhere to relocate.
What's the acreage of the Hastings Street property?
I think it's roughly 5 acres,
And
a little over
the,
5 acres.
the Cedar Run property is
50.
big. Yeah, 50.
So more than we need for this, but for opportunity to maintain that natural area.
And is the vision that it could be a partnership where the new headquarters sits and the natural area is available for community benefit?
Absolutely.
And the portion of the 50 acres that had the fly ash is about 16 acres, and that's where the solar ground-mounted array would likely be? Is
That's
that
what
the?
we're envisioning, yeah.
Okay.
Are there any requirements, I'm sure there's not, but I just want to make sure, any requirements or concerns about moving the headquarters outside the city limits?
I've researched that. And so actually TCOP used to have its offices at some point outside of the corporate city limits. So with that in mind, I think we're fine. I will tell you though, the decision to do that, say 5-10 years ago, wouldn't have been advantageous. However, we do now have a Hall Street location in town.
Okay.
So being able now to still have that
So there
as
is
a
a
site.
city presence?
Absolutely, yes.
Sort of a random question. I looked up the Garfield Township zoning map and noticed that this property is currently zoned agricultural.
Yes.
And the future land use map that they have shows it as low-density residential. So this would require rezoning.
Yes.
And
Absolutely.
have you had any preliminary conversations about how that might be a hard thing to achieve, or if it's just part of what the next steps will show us?
It's part of what the next steps would show us. I'm hesitant to engage them directly without talking with you first, but it's just part of the process. Yeah.
Which I know that to be true, so thank you.
And a good chunk of the reason why there's a kind of a span of time to
Yep.
give us a good runway to work on those items. We also still need to update the restrictive covenant with Eagle too. There is an opportunity for us to move forward with doing a hydrogeological assessment, if I got that right, Tony, all right? Hydrogeological assessment, and that allows us to make certain that we update the restrictive covenant to just really cover that fly ash area. So we have to do that too. So there's a number of steps and items that the staff is prepared to execute and move forward on.
So it's not like we're all in with Cedar Run. We're all in with Cedar Run as an option to be reviewed with possible other options, starting with this one, and then if it doesn't feel like it's
This is-
workable, then shifting?
This is the preferred option. The backup option that I have envisioned is that we could still try to make it work on Hastings. It does come with limitations. It's just the availability of property in this area for building. There's not very much without going far out. And so while I don't have any concern with being just outside of the city limits, I do have some concern getting too far out. And so it does limit our options considerably.
Any other questions?
Yeah.
Or feedback?
So I think you may have just kind of sort of answered this, but was any other option looked at? Because I know that these two subcommittees were working and there was sort of this, we can make this switch. But did the Sustainability Ad Hoc Committee look outside of Cedar Run in terms of,
Staff has. So Jake in particular was working with Hobson Black to see if there were some opportunities within the area. Again, this was happening parallel to what we were dealing with Cedar Run.
Okay. And can you comment on that?
So during the study, they did try to find property that might work for us, and we were looking for about 10 acres of property. Without being a significant ways outside of the city, there just wasn't anything around that would work for us.
Okay, thanks.
Yeah, and then the backup option for Hastings, should that have to be something we have to do, like I said, we're prepared to go down that path. It would involve having to dig a basement. It would end up adding another floor. I mean, there's a way we can make it work. It still does offer some constraints, though, when it comes to the renewable investments. The reason why Cedar Run is so advantageous is because we can do more with it based on a lot of the items that we've been talking about over the past few years when it comes to the solar, the wind. I mean, we've even been talking about wind. If you walked up on that property, it is an excellent opportunity to capture all of that.
When we initially, the Cedar Run, wasn't there a determination that we couldn't put solar on that?
It was cost prohibitive, and
Oh.
predominantly because of the costs associated with doing the mounted on the actual cap.
Okay.
The other piece that's associated with that is that if we were not building anything else on the site, we'd also pay wheeling charges to the utility that's actually within the area.
Okay.
Us being on there, we can clearly serve ourselves, and we would be building a distribution system to serve ourselves. So that that changes the analysis quite a bit.
Okay.
The other piece, and not to forget, and I don't want to lose sight of this, we're also exploring adding rooftop too. So there are more options. If we're going to invest and we're going to do it, we should be doing it.
Thank you.
So as far as the solar refund advantage that you just talked about that might need to like hurry things up, how does that?
40%.
Yeah, the 40%. How does that play out relative to the timing of like actually installing it? I mean, is it just something that has to be like in the books, that has a projected date that it'll get installed?
The reason why there's a sense of urgency is because we have to start building it within a certain time frame, like this summer. So ideally, you have to do procurement, and if we start doing what I would call a notable build, then we qualify for being able to receive the 40% direct tax benefit. But then we also have to have it completed by a certain time. The sooner we do it, the more time we have to get it completed, and that's really the driver for that. And now, Jeek, did I get that? Is it?
Yeah, so the way it works is if we have 10% started by the 4th of July 2026, we have 4 years to complete the project. If we start after the 4th of July, we have to have it wrapped up by December of 2027. So we're really getting an extra 2.5 years to complete, which aligns perfectly with this project. So that is kind of the rush that we're looking at right now.
So we're talking this solar array is happening on the Cedar Run property.
Mhm.
We're talking about like between now and July 4th, having a master site plan with, knowing that it would be probably on that 16 acres of the fly ash area. Would the request for quotes have been morphed into request for a proposal to do a master site plan that shows how the array fits in with the siting of the buildings and the road access and that whole thing? And
So the request for, so just for clarification, we know how to design the interconnection and how it's placed. That's just what we do in-house. But we will wrap that into the RFP process, making certain that the placement and what we put together meets what our requirements are.
And to somewhat answer your question, I think it's actually 11 acres that are out there. They can't be used for anything else. This is about it. So whether we do something here or we don't, it's not going to affect any future planning whatsoever.
all right, that's good.
Oh, okay, thank you.
Anyone else? All right, well, I had the benefit of working with Brandy in preparation for this. I've asked my questions, and they've obviously been addressed in the presentation. I don't have anything else further. Do you want to transition to the ad hoc
I
possibility?
do, yeah. So I'm feeling a soft nod. All right, okay. All right. So, one of the things, we've had 2 ad hocs, and I think one of the conversations was, do we continue this with the sustainable ad hoc? But there's so much on our plate for the sustainability ad hoc, you guys know that. And so my recommendation is that the board creates its own ad hoc that's really focused on this, and we can engage a little bit faster, and not really faster, but probably more directly in real time. I think the only difference between my previous request for the ad hocs is that I'm asking that the board chair be on this, just given the magnitude of the investment, and then potentially maybe 2 other members. Any thoughts on that?
All right, so there's the motion, there's the concept. If anyone wants to discuss the nature of the ad hoc, by all means, ask questions. But we're looking for volunteers. And do we want to get an alternate as well, do you think? Or we need 2 volunteers for sure, and maybe an alternate. I'll leave that to Brandy.
Okay.
But first of all, any sort of clarifying questions on the scope of the ad hoc or the intent of the ad hoc?
No, but I'd like to volunteer.
Great. That's what we're hoping. I'll take volunteers or questions. Anybody else want to serve on this? We've got a couple board members who are not here. We might be able to cajole in, but not yet? Okay,
I would serve as an alternate.
okay.
Yeah.
That's
yeah.
great. That's great.
We're trying not to drown too much.
You missing a third?
Yeah, we need a third. I'm
I can volunteer.
Okay,
I'm just worried a little bit about time commitment, but that's okay.
okay. Okay, well then we have a full slate plus an alternate.
Okay, awesome.
And,
All right, so I think, do you vote?
and I guess we, in a formal, pardon me?
Yeah, do you have the, I couldn't remember if you vote. Oh, that, okay.
Yeah, I think I see. I was gonna say, I think, aside from the intent Brandon and I discussed, which was that whether it's me or when someone besides me that have the board chair involved is smart, but in the, sense of the resolution, someone's about to make a motion for, let's use the actual names, not the board chair. Which is my way of asking when someone would like to make a motion.
I'll make a motion to establish a Sustainable Innovation Campus Ad Hoc Committee for the purpose of providing guidance to the Executive Director on long-term facility and operational planning related to the Sustainable Innovation Campus Initiative, the members of which include TCLP Board Chair John Taylor, Susanna Tobin, and Maura Brennan, with Lance Bomer as the alternate.
Perfect.
So moved.
Thank you. And a first and second, any further discussion? Any public comment? All right, all those in favor, please say aye.
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 Any opposed? All right, committee formed.
All right, thank
Thanks to the
you.
volunteers.
Yeah, right. The great mystery.
All right, so we're on to reports and communications. Anything under legal or staff before I jump to the capital improvement plan? Okay, then the capital improvement plan's all yours, Carla.
Okay. There we go. Sorry about that. Thank you. All right, I just want to start out and thank some people because this was a true team effort. Adam Lasdell created the report within the project. Jake and Tony submitted a lot of projects. Brandy provided the letters and feedback, and thank you to Heidi Sheppy, the city treasurer, for setting us up within the software program that we're using collaboratively with the city. So this is our agenda for the capital improvement plan, our mission and vision. So these next few slides provide a snapshot of the strategic priority and objectives that impacted by the capital projects that are proposed within the 6-year capital plan. Within the report, there's a more detailed page that lists each project and each specific strategic objective that you can cross-reference. So next is the operation financial excellence and employee excellence, and then technology transition and environmental sustainability. Once the projects are submitted, the team comes together and evaluates each project by the following criteria. We have risk mitigation, climate impact, customer employee value, financial value, strategic alignment, innovation, and operational excellence. Just some general information, kind of piggybacking on, Brandy touched on this in the last presentation, but As a utility, we're 38% depreciated. So that shows that we're a relatively new system, which is great for our utility because we are over 100 years old. So that really focuses on that reliability and safety as a focus of our utility. We also have a lot of significant useful life of our assets left. In the past 10, 15 years, we've really invested a lot in 2 new substations, circuit rebuilds, both transmission and distribution, AMI system, just to name a few. But this really allows us to focus on system modernization and intelligence and community action plan initiatives. Additionally, you'll see in the capital plan, we'll be utilizing a financing tool, which is a great tool to use because it ensures costs are shared equitable among both current and future ratepayers who will benefit from these assets. So this is just a snapshot of the past 10 fiscal years. We have invested over $57 million into our system. And you can see, in 2015, 16, 17, 18, 18, 19, there was significant investment. Those represent our investment in substations, both South Substation and East Hammond Substation, pole replacement project, AMI, Lafreniere Barlow transmission line asset, and I can go on. But we have had significant investment in our system, making it very reliable. So kind of going forward, this is our fiscal year costs, kind of by category. I had the Sustainable Innovation Campus as its own category since it's significant. The green represents the distribution, and that's significant in 27, 28, 28, 29, to do the expansion of the Smart Grid project to Phase 3.
Is Phase 3 the final phase? Oh, how many phases are there? I don't know. Oh,
Phase 3 is really focused on where we have electric already. So Phase 2 is really focused on getting through the city proper. So all electric customers, the idea is that we're in the city proper. Phase 3 really gets into, there's still TCLP customers, but they're outside of the city proper. So those are those contiguous areas. Where we go beyond that, we'll still continue to focus on like a cost-benefit analysis for expansion, similar to what we do for electric.
The next data visual just shows internal funding versus financing. So you can see the internal funding is very smooth across the 6 years, which a finance person kind of likes. But we're also utilizing the financing tool to spread those benefits over the future ratepayers through debt service costs. These are our project costs by department. Distribution represents 43.1% with the Smart Grid project, and they're about 13 million, and then a Sustainable Innovation Campus at 49.6. But we still have projects within transmission, information systems, and fiber operations.
Time frame for that pie chart? Is that for next year or for the next 5 years?
Yeah, next 6 years, it's in total. Our sustainability projects represent 68% of our total capital plan investment, which is very exciting, or approximately 52.9 million. And this represents the Sustainable Innovation Campus, the renewable battery storage demonstration with the campus, the Smart Grid expansion, and the EV charger replacement. Just to highlight the new projects that's included in the capital plan, we have, with transmission, we have the Grand Traverse 138 kV line rebuild, along with substation equipment replacement, the Sustainable Innovation Campus that Brandy just presented on, capital equipment for logistics operations, and then the EV charger replacement for reliability. So our next steps, and sorry, there is an error on this because I did this before the plan was finalized, but we'll bring this back on January 13th for approval by the TCLP board. February 18th is when it will go to the Planning Commission. And then March 3rd will be the Planning Commission public hearing, and in April will be distributed to the City Commission, and then in May, the City Commission will review and have a public hearing and approval. I'd be happy to answer any questions you have on the CIP plan.
Questions on the CIP plan or feedback?
I have a quick question on between the pie chart and the bar chart, just making sure that my numbers are consistent. On the bar chart, the distribution is green, and on the pie chart, it's looks like they're flipped.
Yeah, I use different colors.
Okay.
You're absolutely
That-
right.
That threw me for a loop. Okay, got it.
We can update that, yeah.
Okay,
So that when it goes to the commission, that'll be clear.
yeah. I eyeballed green and went, wait, that doesn't make sense. Okay.
Any other clarifying questions, or?
Thank you.
Thank you, Carla. All right, actually, thank you, Carla, and please continue. Your
So,
quarterly financial statement.
so included are the, in your board packet is the September 30th, 2025 financial statements. We're really right on budget. Operating revenues came in at 24.98%. Operating expenses came in at 22.33%. That's just really due to things not being expended and expected to be expended later on in the year. Purchase power costs, it's just really due to seasonal. We hedge more during the summer for our bilateral costs, so that's why that increases there. Campbell costs, it was supposed to be decommissioned in May of 2025. However, I'm sure as you know, the DOE, our Department of Energy, is mandating to continue to operate it. I believe the last notice is through February of 2026. So that's why that is over budget. Solar projects range from 33 to 53% just because of the sun during the summer. And then the CT runs more during the summer and then later in the winter, so that's why it's higher than budgeted, or 35%. So net income was at 1.4 million. Cash flow showed capital assets, that's primarily the smart grid, and our investment in small projects relating to overhead, underground, and new services. The fiber fund revenues came in slightly under at 21.54%, but expenses are significantly under budget at 15.55%, and had a change in net position of about 36,000. I'd be happy to answer any questions on the statements.
Could you just,
Questions on the quarterlies?
yeah, could you provide a little bit more color around the Campbell station? I guess I'm not familiar.
So the Campbell coal plant was decommissioned, supposed to be decommissioned in May 2025. With President Trump, the DOE, or Department of Energy, mandated that it continues to operate because they believe that the grid was not reliable. So they can do orders for 90 days.
Okay.
And they issued an order right after in May to continue to operate in August, and then they reissued that order, and that order is continuing until February. We do have costs with Campbell, even if it doesn't operate, relating to the transmission and decommissioning costs, but because it's operating, there's additional generation costs. If we do have costs that are, the DOE is supposed to reimburse us for any costs that are reimbursable, like.
And then just to add on to what Carla shared too, for additional clarity. So Camp Bell is a coal-fired generating unit that's operated by Consumers Energy that TCOP has a joint ownership interest in with other utilities.
Okay.
And so as that generating unit comes offline, we will still have costs associated with it, but it really be associated with the decommissioning costs. So just for perspective there.
Thank you.
Great. Any other questions on the quarterly financials? Thank you, Carla.
Thank you.
So the last item we have is from the board with my name on it. We do have, because of city commission transitions, a vacancy on the Community Investment Fund Ad Hoc Committee, which gets to help select organizations in town who we can support with aligned interests and doing good for our community. And so I think we're simply looking for one person to.
And an alternate.
Okay, so.
Tim was the main, and Mike stood in as alternate.
Okay. So we lost both city commissioners. We're looking for someone to help. It is one of the most pleasant
I'll do that.
committee assignments you're going to get. Wonderful. That's great. And then,
I'll be alternate.
okay,
Yeah.
you won't regret those decisions. We should vote, I think, to formally add them to the committee. And so what I need is a motion to just add the two folks who just volunteered to the Community Investment Fund Ad Hoc.
I'll make a motion to add Laura Ness as the member and Lance Bomer as the alternate to the Community Investment Fund Ad Hoc Committee.
Perfect.
Support.
Okay, there we go. Any further discussion? Any public comment? Bring it back to the board for a vote. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, thank you. That motion passes, and we have a complete CIF ad hoc. Anything else from the board before I go to public comment? All right, seeing none, any public comment tonight? Davila,
She's, Alicia Davila is the chairperson.
and then do we have,
It was just two, it was a two-member and
okay,
an alternate.
so that just Ms. Davila. You're welcome.
John, sorry.
It's okay, go ahead.
I have one thing.
Yeah, please.
Because, like, we're finished, right, almost? Okay, I have one question.
Now's your chance.
Oh, my gosh. Okay, so I was looking at the street and area lighting projects, that there's a collaboration between the DDA, the City of Traverse City, and TCLP. And it's going to be about transitioning to LED, and there was $1 million+ amount associated with that as an expense for TCLP. I know I should have asked this earlier, but I'm asking now. So how does that group work with the DDA and the city and TCLP, and who is, like, now that Darren Dixon, I know I had a long conversation with him about lighting fixtures and consistency and dark sky compliance and, color temperature of the LED and all of that. Who is sort of like, is TCLP at the lead for this street and area lighting project committee of these three entities, or how does that work?
So I'll let Tony Chartrand talk. Tony is actually has replaced Darren.
Okay.
So he is the one that's responsible for street lighting and electric operations.
Okay.
And Tony, perhaps you can add some color.
Yeah, I think I believe that's the whole amount, right, Carla? Yeah, so it's spread over multiple years. So we budget some amount because we have failures. So that's really mostly replacement.
Okay.
Sometimes if a customer, for instance, I know Annika Place 2 on Hastings down the street from us, we did their parking lot lighting, so there's some new customer lighting, but most of that is just replacement of old fixtures that have no longer working. But we would retain ownership in that point, that part of, to answer your other part of your question, where we would make sure we're dark sky compliant, and then also, with color temperature and such, and light
Yeah, we're still
placement and all
maintaining
that.
our standards.
Sure, great, perfect. I just want to make sure that was TCLP's
Yes.
purview. Thank you.
Good, great, thank you, Tony.
Thanks, Tony.
No problem at all. Last call for public comment. Okay, we'll bring it back to the board and say the meeting is adjourned. Thank you all very much. Have a happy holiday season. We'll see you in January.
Thanks, John.
Before you leave, Ryan,